All right, let's do something pretty ambitious. We're going to try and squeeze 500 years of American history into just a few minutes. The whole point here is to connect the dots, right? To see how we get from a continent buzzing with diverse civilizations to the global superpower we know today.
So that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? How does any nation go from just a handful of colonies to, a global superpower? We're going to be on the lookout for those key turning points, the big fights, and the ideas that really forged America's identity along the way.
Okay, so before we even get to the United States, we have to talk about the land itself. And here's the most important thing to get right off the bat. This place wasn't empty, not even close. It was a continent that was already alive, just pulsing with its own history.
I mean, for centuries before any European showed up, you had millions of people living in these incredibly complex societies all over North America. And we're not talking about just a few small, scattered tribes. No way. These were full-blown civilizations. They had advanced farming, trade networks that stretched across the continent, and even sophisticated governments like the famous Iroquois Confederacy. This land was already a thriving, highly developed place.
And then, everything changes. A huge, seismic shift. When European settlers start arriving in the 1600s and 1700s, they bring with them totally new technologies, different ambitions, and these, well, revolutionary ideas that were about to change the continent forever.
And what's this wild is how fast this all happened. Think about it. In 1607, Jamestown is this tiny, barely surviving settlement. But then, fast forward not even a full lifetime, and those colonies are declaring independence. And just 11 years after that, boom, they've written the US Constitution and created a whole new kind of government. The speed is just staggering.
And right at the core of this brand new nation was this really radical idea. The one written right into the Declaration of Independence. This promise that all men are created equal with these fundamental rights. It became the country's mission statement, its creed. But it also, and this is key, became the source of its biggest, most painful conflicts for centuries. So, we move into the 19th century, the 1800s, and things get explosive. I mean, this was a time of massive, often really violent growth. There was this idea called manifest destiny, this belief that America was just meant to stretch from one coast to the other. And the nation got bigger and bigger. But the bigger it got, the more this huge central contradiction threatened to just rip it in two. And that contradiction, well, it finally blew up into the Civil War. This was a fight over two totally different visions for what America was. You had the Union fighting to keep the country together as one nation, and then you had the Confederacy, which wanted to break away and start a new country, one that was openly and explicitly built on the institution of slavery. I mean, the country was literally at war with itself. And the cost? It was just staggering. It's still the deadliest war in American history. And yeah, the war did end slavery, but it left behind these incredibly deep scars, wounds of division that, honestly, would continue to shape the country's biggest struggles for the next 100 years and beyond. But you have to remember, this war wasn't happening in a vacuum. The whole century was just nonstop, rapid-fire change. The country literally doubled in size with the Louisiana Purchase. You've got the Industrial Revolution kicking into high gear, with railroads crisscrossing the land and new cities popping up everywhere. All of this just cranked up the pressure and made the economic and political stakes of the fight over slavery even higher. Okay, so that brings us to the 20th century, and this is the era that really forged the United States into a superpower. It was a century of world wars, economic collapse, and massive social change. You can almost think of the 20th century as a series of 4 huge tests for America. First up, 2 world wars that dragged it onto the world stage whether it wanted to be there or not. Then, the Great Depression, a massive test of its economic strength that completely changed the role of government. After that, the Civil Rights Movement, which was this powerful challenge for the nation to finally actually live up to its founding promises of equality. And then, woven through all of it, was this incredible surge of technology, with the moon landing being the ultimate symbol that cemented its superpower status.
And that brings us pretty much to today. Because, of course, the American story is nowhere near finished. The 21st century has already thrown a whole new set of massive challenges and changes into the mix.
And these challenges are, well, they're complicated, right? The 9/11 attacks completely reshaped how we think about national security. The rise of digital technology has connected us in ways we never imagined, but it's also, maybe deepened our political divides. And of course, powerful social movements are still pushing the nation to grapple with its past, showing that the debate over what America is and what it should be is as intense as it's ever been.
So when you step back and look at it, this whole journey, from a continent of diverse peoples to a global superpower, it's really a story of constant reinvention. It's been shaped by brutal conflict, by incredible innovation, and by this ongoing, never-ending struggle over those ideals from the very beginning. The story is still being written, which I guess leaves us with one final thought. What's going to define the next chapter of America?